So the month of July just ended, which means it's time for a wrap up of all of the books that I read. Hi, my name's Jonathan, and this is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. I'm an elementary school teacher who reads middle grade fiction so that I can help my students find good books to read, and so I can make good recommendations to other teachers and librarians as well as parents. Now, the month of July was a pretty good reading month for me. I did read 15 books, but I do have a caveat to that. Remember, I am a teacher, which means I had the month of July off, so I had lots of time to get some reading done. So I was able to read through 15 books. In addition to that, we did spend the first week at the beach. So that was a huge part of what I did at the beach as well, was lots of reading. So let's go through. I want to share with you the 15 books that I read in the month of July. First, this was probably one of my favorite books that I read the entire month. That would be the book Framed by James Ponti. This is the story of a boy named Florian who just moved to Washington, D.C. His parents work for museums, and so they travel all over the place, and he just moved to D.C. And while he's there, his father, who works in security, and his mother, who is an art restoration expert, they get a call that some paintings from the National Gallery have been stolen. And so he comes in and he's able to help them figure out what's going on. Well, that catches the eye and the ear of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So they bring him on as a secret covert asset. He sees things, he's able to put pieces together using something that he calls TOAST, the theory of all small things. And using TOAST, he's able to see things that other people miss. And so this book, Framed, was an excellent mystery. He meets a new friend named Margaret. Margaret is adopted, and so she asks him to help her find her birth parents, which leads to another mystery, one that Florian isn't too excited to help solve. But this was a great book. Really, really enjoyed it. It was the first in a trilogy, and as you'll see as we go through, I read the entire trilogy this month. Next up, Camp Twisted Pine by Sierra Birch. Now, this was a middle grade horror novel. It had to do with a girl named Naomi who is sent by her parents with her two brothers to a summer camp, and she's not terribly excited to go. She'd rather stay inside and read, but her parents are going through some difficulties in their marriage, so she goes to camp, and while she's there, she discovers some strange things are taking place, in particular related to a cryptid known as the New Jersey Devil. And then other campers start to go missing. None of the camp counselors want to listen, and there's something going on with the greenery, the trees and the moss and the kudzu that are growing. So all of this is taking place. So Naomi and the other girls in her bunk have to figure out what's going on before anything else happens or anybody else goes missing. Really enjoyed this book. The reason I picked it up was it is a new book at my school's library. I saw it on the new bookshelf just before the school year ended, and I thought I'd give it a read. It's a very entertaining book. There's some creepy stuff. Doesn't get too over the top gory. Just enough suspense to keep you reading the book, but without going into anything gross or the tensions being too high. Really liked it. Definitely going to encourage my students to check it out this year. Book number 3 was The Werewolf of Fever Swamp by R.L. Stine. This was one of the original Goosebumps series. If you've been following my channel, you know I'm trying to read through those. I have to be honest, I was not a big fan of this book. I know that other people do like The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. It just wasn't my thing. It's about a boy who moves to Florida with his parents. Seems to be a trend in middle grade books. Because they are scientists and they are living in a swamp that's known as Fever Swamp. And one day he meets a dog, he finds a dog, and then animals in the area start to get attacked. They start to blame it on the dog, but nobody seems to want to think that maybe the old creepy guy that lives in the swamp may have something to do with it. I would say it's a good read if you like that kind of thing. It wasn't necessarily for me. Then I started also reading another series. This one's a longer series. It's called the Spirit Animals series. I read the first one, and that's by Brandon Mull. It's called Spirit Animals Wildborn. And in this particular story, there are several children who have to go through a process that they call bonding. They drink this stuff called nectar. If they are one of the gifted children, then they get a spirit animal. And so these four children in four different locations go through the ceremony, and they each bond with an animal, but they bond with a unique animal, an animal from legend. It's one of the what they call the fallen. And as soon as they do that, they are recruited into this battle between good and evil, because there is a someone who wants to conquer the world, who also wants to take their spirit animals. Each book in the Spirit Animals series is written by a different author, a different fantasy author. Really good book. Really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. A lot of epic fantasy tropes that are in there, and very much enjoyed it. In fact, there was some emotional stuff that I was not ready for in those books. So the next book I read is a book called Tiger by S.F. Said. This one was kind of a surprise. I came across it. It was a Barnes & Noble pick. I think I came across it on Instagram, put it on hold at the library, and it came in. And I got to tell you, it was a wonderful book. Tiger is about a boy named Adam. He lives in an alternate history, Britain, where the British Empire still exists. And as a result, slavery still exists in the world, and certain groups of people are considered less than. And so Adam and his family, they have to live in what's referred to as the ghetto. They have to have papers to be able to travel outside of their neighborhood. Lots of really bad stuff is going on. Well, one day, Adam is out and he's trying to escape somebody who wants to hurt him. And he comes across a tiger. This tiger who's not supposed to exist, and yet he does. And this tiger tells him a story of how the world is going to end if he does not find a certain group of people. And Adam is not convinced that he's going to be able to do this, but he tries. He learns things about the world, and he comes to realize that if he can't find these guardians, then he has to become one himself. Really good book. This one, probably recommend maybe for more 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, but really enjoyed it. It also has some great illustrations by David McKean. If you're familiar with his work at all, he did some work on a comic book called The Sandman, which I love the artwork in that book. Definitely check out Tiger by S.F. Said. Then I read another Goosebumps book. This one was called You Can't Scare Me, and again, it's by R.L. Stine, one of the original. And I have to tell you, this one was terrible. I don't like to talk bad about people's work because they've written a book and I haven't. But this one was just mean. It was a group of kids trying to scare one of their classmates who seems to be unscarable. She's not frightened by anything. And so the pranks that they're pulling on her continue to up and up and up until finally something at the end happens with these legendary mud monsters that are supposedly haunting their town. And then the book is over. And it was not good. You read it if you want to, if you're a teacher or a librarian, you want to add it to your library to complete the series, go for it. But otherwise, you can skip that one because it was not great. Then I read the next book in the Framed series by James Ponti. This one was called Vanished. And in this one, Florian and Margaret, they are sent undercover to a prestigious prep school to find out why these pranks are being pulled, and they involve the president's daughter. Well, while they're there, they get caught up in another mystery about a Chinese music prodigy. There's a young man from China who has been sent to the United States as kind of a goodwill mission, I guess would be the right way to put it. And one night when they are performing at the Kennedy Center, he goes missing. And so they're trying to figure out two mysteries. One, who is pulling the pranks, who is causing all of this mischief at the school? And two, where did their friend from China go and who has him. Again, absolutely love this book. I really like the way that all of the characters from the first one are pulled back into this story. It was just a great, wonderful book. I'm going to go ahead and skip, rather than go in order, I'm going to talk about this next one, and that is the book Trap. This is the first one in the trilogy that began with Framed, and then it went to Vanished and Trapped. And in this one, Florian and Margaret, they actually have to help their FBI friend Marcus, who is being accused of being a corrupt agent because of the way that their involvement is with the mysteries. There's a Russian spy that's involved, and then there's a nice tie-up from the first book, which was Framed. There's a nice tie-up from that to this one where they tie together some pieces. And I got to tell you, the ending, I'm very sad that this trilogy appears to be done. Mr. Ponte, if you happen to see this, I'd love it if you did. If you want to write more of these books, that would be fantastic. But the way that all the pieces tied up at the end was amazing. So all three of those books, I give them 5 stars. They were absolutely wonderful books to read. Then I read Spirit Animals Hunted by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the second of the Spirit Animals trilogy or series, and it was great. It just continued with the same themes. I love the way that even though it was written by a different author, the characters still felt the same as they continue their quest to find all of the talismans that belong to these other spirit animals. This one was really good. You start to see some of the enemy come back or come into the picture, and the plans that they have as they're trying to beat them to the punch in order to get these objects before they do. It does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger with some of the characters making decisions that are going to affect the rest of the group. So we'll have to pick it up in book 3 to see how that goes. Probably the longest book that I read this month was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is the 5th book. This one was a little bit of a challenge to get through because it is the most angsty of the ones that I've read so far. Harry and Ron and Hermione, they all seem to be in a bad mood all the time. But it's interesting, and then you get to a little more a little more insight into Snape and the way he is, and why he treats Harry the way that he does. It's very interesting. And then you get to the end, and don't want to spoil it, but a major character who was just introduced a few books back ends up dying. That was really heartbreaking. It was really hard to get through. But I have 2 more left in the series as I reread. I had only read this one. This was the second time I've read it. Read it originally probably like 20 years ago. So I'm enjoying my reread through. I've seen the movies, but there's a lot more in the books that you don't necessarily always get in those movies. Next up was a brand new book that hasn't been released yet, and that is The Last Resort by Erin Estrada Kelly. Erin Estrada Kelly is a wonderful writer. She's won lots of awards. She's won the Newbery Award this past year for The First State of Being. I know she's won the Newbery Honor Medal several times. But she has a new ghost story out. It'll be coming out in just a couple of weeks, and that's called The Last Resort. And it's about a girl who she has 2 plans for her summer. One is to not be so dramatic, and 2, to win back the friends she lost because she is so dramatic. And then she gets word that her grandfather, who she's never met, has passed away, and they have to go to Ohio in order to take care of his last affairs. And on the way there, she's nearly killed in an accident. And that's when things really start to go strange, because suddenly she can see people that nobody else can see. And like, they go to a diner, and the diner's full of people. But when she asks her parents where they're going to sit, they tell her, well, we can sit anywhere because there's nobody here. Come to find out, she can now see ghosts, and the hotel that her grandfather owned is full of ghosts. And one night she's awakened, and she sees the ghost of her grandfather, who tells her that somebody has murdered him, and that's the reason why he hasn't been able to cross over and be reunited with his wife. And so now she has to solve the mystery of who murdered her grandfather and what was the reason for it. It was a great ghost story. I really like middle grade ghost stories, spooky books, horror, whatever you want to call them. And this was a great addition to that genre. There's a lot of tension. There are some scary parts with some of the ghosts that show up, but it doesn't get too intense. Definitely one that any age, third, fourth, fifth, all the way up to sixth grade, would greatly enjoy that book. So look for it when it comes out. Then I had Spirit Hunters, Island of Monsters, which is the second in the Spirit Hunters trilogy. I made a video not too long ago about the first one, Spirit Hunters, and how it was probably the scariest middle grade book I've read. And this one continues in that vein. The family, they decide to take a trip because one of their family members is running a hotel on this island. And when they get to the island, they discover that there are actual monsters known as soul eaters that are on this island. There was a tragedy that took place and many people were killed. And as a result, there's some dark stuff that happens on this island, and they have to figure out what is happening and how to stop it before anybody else is hurt. Great book. Not nearly as good as the first one, but I really enjoyed it, and it was a great continuation to that. I'm looking forward to reading the next one in the trilogy to finish that out. Then I read this book right here. I had heard many great things about this book. This is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is about a guy who wakes up in a spaceship, doesn't know how he got there or what he's supposed to do. And then through a series of flashbacks, we find out what his mission is, why he's on this spaceship, what he has to do. And then some other things take place. I don't want to spoil it. This was a great book. I will tell you, there were some times where I almost put it down and didn't pick it up again. But I'm really glad I stuck to the end. Some of the interactions between him and some of the other characters throughout the book are fantastic. And the things that he does in order to survive and in order to help, because his mission is to save the earth from these like amoebas that are eating the energy that comes from the sun. And so they have to figure out a way to stop it. Fantastic book, 4.5 out of 5. There's lots and lots of hype around this book online, and it is worth all of the hype it gets. And there are some elements of that. But overall, this is just a great, wonderful fantasy story. The last book is this book right here, and this is One Day at Horrorland by R.L. Stine. And this is about the Morris family. They're trying to make they're trying to go to the zoo, but they get lost, and so they pull into this place called Horrorland, and as soon as they get out, their car explodes. Random. But they decide to go in and try to figure out what are they going to do. And they go on all of these rides, and there's all these, what they think are people who are dressed up as monsters. I like this book. There was some really scary parts. I mean, there's a slide, and there is a roller coaster. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Definitely a little bit on the scary side. But then the end sucks all the air out of it. So really liked it, but it was a little cheesy, scary until the end, and then the end is just kind of sometimes happens with the Goosebumps books. Those are the 15 books that I read during the month of July. I'd love to hear what you have read. So leave a title down in the comments, something that you would recommend that I check out, preferably middle grade, but I'm open to anything. But yeah, leave those down there. Or if you've read any of the books that I just went through, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. Again, my name is Jonathan. This is Mr. Pearson Talks Books, and we'll see you in the next video.